Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. So according to the Hoso sect, Nichiren quotes the following. According to all Buddhist scriptures, beginning with the Flower Garland Sutra and ending with the Lotus and Nirvana Sutra, those who do not have Buddha nature and those whose nature is fixed, as men of the two vehicles, Sravaka and Pratyeka Buddha, learning and realization, will never become Buddhas. The Buddha is never two-faced. Once he decides that Buddhahood is unattainable, he will never change his mind, even if the sun and moon should fall and the great earth should tumble. Therefore, not even in the Lotus Sutra and Nirvana Sutra is it definitely stated that the two categories of people who've been rejected in the pre-Lotus Sutras, those without Buddha nature, and men of the two vehicles, will attain Buddhahood. Hi friends, thanks for being here. We continue with the opening of the eyes, Gosho. A comprehensive book again by Nichiren to obviate the progression of the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha during his more than 50-year teaching life. Yeah? And here we're given one of these alternate sects and their assertions, which by now you've heard enough from Nichiren and from me about the statements in the quotations of Shakyamuni's words in the Lotus Sutra describing the future enlightenment of Sarvakas and Pratyeka Buddhas. Should they practice the Lotus Sutra? Should they practice the culminating, the ultimate teaching of self-enlightenment, even those who have previously been cut off by their own attachment to selfness, to ego, to identification? Those definitions of attaining enlightenment, totally selfish and cut off from the amazing, massive immenseness of Buddhahood, the experience of the entirety of the engine of life, previously unattainable by those people, now in the Lotus Sutra can transcend that earthly attachment by developing their bodhisattva nature, their appreciation for, witnessing, awareness of their energetic influence like a pebble in a lake radiating out. Buddhahood changes everything, enables them to see a picture so much larger that the idea of ego, the idea of self, it just evaporates. Now we're in Buddha. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. And the Hoso is saying, no, he never said that. No. Can you not read? But the Hoso had to say that. They were relying on the ignorance of people because they wanted to be the superior one. No, we know better. That's for intellectuals and special people. It's not for all of us. And so this, again, this is what Nichiren does. He simply exposes the ignorance. Emperor's naked, right? Nichiren goes on, close your eyes and think hard. If it is stated in the Lotus Sutra and the Nirvana Sutras that those two categories of men who are hated in the pre-Lotus Sutras will obtain Buddhahood, why is it that such great commentators in India as Asanga and Vasubandhu and such Tripitaka masters of China as Xuanzang and Chuen did not find this? Why is it that they did not write about it, believe it, or transmit it, or ask Bodhisattva Maitreya about it? Although you appear to rely on the words of the Lotus Sutra, actually, you believe in the slanted view of Tendai, Mialo, and Dengyo, and read Buddhist scriptures through their prejudices. This may be the reason why you consider the Lotus Sutra and those sutras preached before it incompatible to each other, like fire and water. The Kigan and Shingon sects, which claim to be incomparably superior to the Hoso and Sanron sects, maintain the following, quote, concepts of obtaining Buddhahood by the two vehicles and attaining enlightenment in the eternal past, they're not limited to the Lotus Sutra. They take the other way around. They flip that script over almost precisely. Oh, yeah, the Lotus Sutra says those things. Yeah, but it's not the only place. It says it all over the place. They are clearly mentioned in the Flower Garland Sutra and the Great Sun Buddha Sutra. Tu Shun, Qi Jian, Fa Zhang, and Chen Quan of the Kingan sect, and Subakarashima, our old buddy from the Shingon, right? Shan Wu Wei, otherwise known. Vajrabodha and Amogashvajra, Pukung, much easier to say, of the Shingon sect are incomparably higher in rank than Tendai and Dengyo. Oh, yeah, you knew that. They didn't bring anything new to the party. Furthermore, Subakarashima and others are in the direct line of the Great Sun Buddha. Who cares? The Great Sun Buddha is an imaginary mental thing. To say that you're in line with that him? What are you saying? You know, in our day, and I'm sure for Nichiren, it was so frustrating. Guys, this is so obvious. Just read it as written. How could these people, temporary manifestation of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, make mistakes? Accordingly, it is said in the Flower Garland Sutra, the Kigan, right? It has been immeasurable kalpas since Shakyamuni attained Buddhahood. The Great Sun Buddha Sutra states, I am the origin of everything. Yeah. How could you say that the doctrine of attaining enlightenment in the eternal past is limited to the 16th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, the duration of the life of the Tathagata? It is speaking like a frog in a well who has never seen the ocean, or a mountain woodcutter who has never visited the capital. Isn't it that you have seen only one chapter of the Lotus without knowing such sutras as the Flower Garland and the Great Sun Buddha? Moreover, do all those in India, China, Sila, and Pakche, except Tendai, Mialo, and Denglo, say that the teachings of obtaining Buddhahood by the two vehicles and attaining enlightenment in the eternal past are revealed only in the Lotus Sutra? Challenging Nichiren directly, right? According to these opinions, although the Lotus Sutra expounded in the last 8 years is superior to those other sutras expounded in the previous 40 years or so, and although it is the rule that when there is a discrepancy between older and newer legal judgment on an authoritative judgment, the newer one takes precedence over the old, The pre-Lotus Sutras seem more influential than the Lotus. Things might have been as they should when Shakyamuni Buddha was alive, but after his death, many commentators in India and teachers in China and Japan have been leaning toward the pre-Lotus Sutras. They have an easily malleable nature of teachings that they convert into their comfortable mysticism, and that gives them power, right? If they can have control over something that seems, or they can make it seem mystical and magical, they can't be contested. And people who like to be told what to do go, cool, that sounds great, that sounds amazing. Something I can't do, I can only aspire to. Well, folks, that's the domain of religion. And human beings have been confounded by that. It comes from attachment to thingness, because that's the primary delusion, as Shakyamuni identified. Once you start hanging on to things like they're permanent, your mind is trying to make them static and permanent, you're already broken from reality. And so the idea that other things can belong to you with that mechanism sounds plausible. But that's why you're suffering. That's why you're stressful. That's why you have anxiety, because that's a complete delusion. But other clever teachers can take advantage of that, because they know that with that, they can promise you things. They can hold themselves somehow higher up the chain of understanding so that you have to kowtow to them to somehow get imbued with the knowledge that they say they have. That whole mechanism, it's such... There are very rudimentary words I could use here for the mind bleep that is. And Nichiren is lamenting here, basically, that this kind of thinking has taken over. It's far more compelling than the Lotus Sutra that's just sitting here trying to survive the onslaught of crazy. Why listen to it? It stands against tradition and years and years and years, generations of magic. Shakyamuni never taught magic. He taught to the capacity of the people he spoke to, so he spoke in terms they were familiar with, so it might seem that way, coming 3,000 years after the fact and reading, what was an oral transmission, interpreted and translated and through different languages and cultures and so on. It's very obfuscated what the core meaning has always consistently been. Nichiren sees it, Tendai saw it, Dengyo saw it. They changed entire countries of people. China's a big country. And even in 6th century China, the population there was far greater than here in the United States or in Canada or Mexico, right? One of the hugest countries in the world, only vying for first or second with India, which is where Buddhism started. Huge numbers of influence. And yet, consistently, a scholar comes up to go, hey, all of you, come here. Rat. Here are the facts. Stop spreading your baloney to people. You're crapping all over Buddhism. How do you live with yourself? And the elite class, owning and ruling those worlds, those continents, those countries, they allowed these debates to be public so that the the population would know directly, oh, right, that's the truth. That's the way to go. And the ruler would say, now you know. Clever rulers, yeah? So again, Nichiren goes through this exercise over and over again, albeit different in this translation than I've ever read it. It's the same argument. Moving on, he says, thus it is difficult to have conviction in the Lotus Sutra, right, amidst all of this. Moreover, we gradually approach the later age of degeneration, foretold by Shakyamuni. This is going to happen. Sages and wise men gradually disappear, while the confused grow in number. Any of you keep up with current politics in your country? Doesn't this sound like it was written yesterday? These people easily fall into error even in dealing with trivial matters of the world, not to mention understanding the exquisite Dharma, transcending worldly matters. There it is again, a reminder. Emperor's naked. See what's really happening here. Men like Vatsiputriya and Vaipulya in India were wise people. Yet, they were unable to distinguish between Mahayana and Hinayana sutras. How is that possible? What he's saying is they had their own agendas. They knew. Come on, they knew. Wu Kao and Mutta, also in India, were clever but unable to differentiate the true teaching from the provisional one. It was within the first 1,000 years after the death of Shakyamuni, not far from his time, and within the land of India, that errors like this had already occurred and were spreading, right? How much more so in the countries such as China and Japan that got those transcriptions later, had their own scholars wrestling with these ideas and trying to reconcile Confucianism and Taoism with this thing called Buddhism. And oh my, this is profound. And which one's right? So there's this guy's opinion, this guy's opinion. They all sound similar, but they're not. So they had to go about their way of deciphering the truth, or the truth that worked for them. This is always the case. This is history, right? And China and Japan are far away from the land of the Buddha, where the land of the Buddha, you and I know the land of the Buddha is the universe. But this is talking about Shakyamuni. And that distinction isn't well made in these translations. So it's easily confusing, isn't it? But that's why we're here. That's what we're doing. We're clearing this mud up. Where different languages are spoken, where people are slow to understand the teaching of the Buddha, where lifespan is shorter, and where greed, anger, and stupidity are twice as strong. Those lower realms of potential in human minds, they're always right there in the hip pocket, ready to pull out. Yeah? We need to cultivate intelligence. We need to cultivate wisdom. We need to elevate the way we experience this amazing process of life. If you don't have that engine, that desire, that commitment, then, sit back and let the world happen to you. The tree analogy. Just wait for stuff to happen and react to it best you can, and then wait again. Some actually fool themselves into thinking that's the ultimate life. Yeah, you just tell me what you want. I struggle to think that people actually live that way. Certainly, they don't benefit from doing that. They might argue differently. It's not the life I want. I want to live this life to its fullest potential. I want to feel, understand, and experience this life in all of its potential, albeit in a life-affirming way. Because it's precious, because it's so brief, because I don't want to be just a leaf on a branch. And even if I were, I would want to be a leaf that appreciates the entirety of the tree. Nichiren continues. It has been many years since the Buddha passed away. Well, Shakyamuni Buddha passed away, right? Buddhist sutras are misunderstood. Yeah. Does anyone understand them correctly? The Buddha predicts in the Nirvana Sutra, those who uphold the true Dharma in the latter age of degeneration are as few as the bit of soil on a fingernail, while slanderers of the true Dharma are as plentiful as the soil of the entire universe. What does he mean by slanderers? Again, that's part of this translation problem. What they're talking about is working against your own best nature, working against your own best potential, most amazing perception, joyful expression of your life. Why would you stand in the way of that? Why does that frighten some people? I can be joyful, like they're going to be stealing something from someone? What? The casual translation is how to be happy. I don't particularly like that translation because it has so many social little tripwires and soap operas in the mind and stuff. Just express your life fully. Don't be afraid of your life. What if I can't do it? What if you'll never know? Wouldn't it be better to live in the wisdom of knowing your life completely? None of us will know everything, but it's exciting to know with certainty how life progresses, how my life is, how life in general is, how her life is, how his life is. I don't know why it's so hard. I see it. I understand that it's there. I don't know why. I don't know how somebody can limit themselves. Right? This is what Buddhism is about. Why live with limits? That's what makes you suffer. I coulda, I woulda. Don't be a victim of your own life, right? It would be difficult to find even one person upholding the true Dharma in a period of 500 or 1,000 years. Those who fall into the evil realms, evil being what stifles you from your full experience, because of their worldly crimes, mistakes, are as few as a bit of soil on a fingernail, while those who fall there because of crimes against Buddhism are as plentiful as the soil of the entire world and the universe. Interesting statement. Everyone makes mistakes, and it impedes you in your life, in your progress. You pay for your mistakes, right? We can argue about that till the sun expires, but everybody understands in some way what that means. What he's comparing that to is the samsaric existence of, suffering, compared to getting in your own way of your enlightenment, something that you just have to switch in your mind, making bad decisions about what you accept, believe about yourself, believe about others, rather than investing your mind in enlightenment, Oh, that's too hard. That is the worst thing you can do. And a lot of people are doing that. So that's what he's saying. And now we'll enter the next chapter, Unbending Aspiration to Buddhahood. And this is where Nichiren always ends up, but it's not just Nichiren talking, right? In various forms, this is what Buddhism, Shakyamuni, every scholar from him discusses this element of living life, really. Because that's what Buddhism is. It's about living life without limits, without fear, without possessions, fear of losing them, right? Greater, lesser. This is just life. Do you choose to live life well? Do you choose when you do anything to do it to the best of your ability? Or do you just do it well enough? Or don't you even do it? Screw it. Yeah, I don't need to do that. Ugh. I'll just be a lump. To a Buddhist, that's the most loathsome thing you can do. How can you take this opportunity, this mind, this experience, and not explore it? Not follow it to its greater experiences, things you can't even imagine. Aren't you curious? Really? You just want to be a lump, not grow, actually regress? Because there's the interesting thing. We know as Buddhists that life is a moving target. Nothing ever sits still. The universe is expanding and accelerating. Everything in it is doing the same thing, including every molecule in your body. So this is the world of Nin, right? Humanity. I want everything to stay static. Okay, this is all mine. I know what I own. You can't take it. Stay away. Okay, I'm going to stay right here. Crap, I'm out of cigarettes. Whatever. Make your own movie. Insert here. 3,000 realms in each thought moment. What a delusion it is to think that you have one and you can hang on to it. The universe is a moving target, baby. It's constantly moving moment to moment to moment. You are, the chair is, the light is, everything's in constant motion. Kinetics, momentum. So, if somebody wants to ardently sit on their butt as though they can stop time, they're going backwards. They are regressing, fancy word. Really? Is that what you want to do? Isn't that actively working against your own life? Your life is moving. Now I, Nichiren, believe it has already been more than 200 years since the arrival of the latter age of degeneration. I was born in a remote country place. Moreover, I'm a poor monk without social status, right? Son of a fisherman. No great shakes. Nichiren's constantly reminding us, hey, I'm not special. I'm just this guy who happened to dedicate his life to studying Shakyamuni's teachings. And whoa, Nelly, I'm telling you, what I'm reading and what these people are talking about, not the same. I don't know what they're talking about, but it's not in here. The emperor's naked, right? I'm a poor monk without social status. While having traversed the 6 realms in my past lives, what's past lives? Moment to moment, moment to moment, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. In this life, I have experienced in the past traveling through the 6 realms, as we all do. Right? The Hinayana, the Agama teachings, that's what they're entirely focused on. People's current experience of life. That's why those teachings are that way. Not because that's the ultimate teaching, but because it's a gates of entry into the capacity to understand the experience of experiencing one's own life contemporaneously without holding it still and reversing themselves, right? Without waiting for the next trauma, to start to observe that there's a pattern here that we're moving through. The mechanism of life. What does it look like? What is actually happening in your life right now? Who's driving? Who's thinking? The early teachings are all about that. So in that way, they're still relevant, right? They're just not the goal of that teaching, right? No one would argue that taking a test about driving a car teaches you how to drive a car. You got to drive the car. I must have sometime been born a great king in the human or celestial realm, making everyone obey me just as strong winds sway the twigs of small trees. Now he's talking in the typical Buddhist, I always forget this word when I'm about to say it. I think of it and then I forget it. That's so annoying. Oh my goodness. It's right there. Storytelling, right? Oh, that's... All right. It'll come to me when we don't need it anymore. Still, I could not obtain Buddhahood then, right? Because he was living in his own ego. That's living as a king, telling people what to do. Doesn't mean that he understands how to attain Buddhahood. That just means he's wrestling with his realms. Authoritarianship. Am I in control? Are you in control? Do I do what you say? Do you do what I say? If we're going to organize anything and accomplish anything, somebody needs to... Am I a type A or a type... Right? The battles we all go through. That's what he's talking about. At other times, I must have studied the teachings of Mahayana and Hinayana sutras, going step by step up the initial and advanced stages of practicing Buddhism the way of a great bodhisattva. Well, of course he did. That's what, at the age of 12, he went into the ministry. He went into the monastery to learn and travel and learn and memorize and practice everything available on Shakyamuni's teachings. That was the way. Having practiced the way of a bodhisattva for as long as 1, 2, and innumerable kalpas, in other words, really put his head to the grindstone, really committed, I was about to reach the state of non-regression, which is what Hinayana Buddhists or Agama Sutra Buddhists often talk about, this stage of no longer being attached to earthly desires and cravings. Although they made the mistake of thinking that was the goal alone, that they, independent selves, egos, were unattached, missing all the while that they were still greatly attached to that ego and that self, right? However, a powerful evil karma prevented me from obtaining Buddhahood. I was stuck. Nichiren's admitting to his Shravaka and Pratyeka Buddha stages of learning and realization as he studied Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings. He's walking us through his progression, yeah? According to the Parable of the Magic City chapter of the Lotus Sutra, there were three categories of people who had an opportunity to listen to the sutra and sow the seed of Buddhahood during the time of Daishuchiso, the great universal wisdom Buddha, in the past. They were all to obtain Buddhahood eventually, with the third and last group being guaranteed to be future Buddhas upon listening to Shakyamuni Buddha preach the Lotus Sutra. I wonder whether or not I was excluded from the third category of people. Or am I one of those who, while having listened to the Lotus Sutra and sowed the seed of Buddhahood, 500 dust particle kalpa in the past, have until today kept falling back without eventually getting it? Have I been just going through the motions? Right? Remember, he's saying all of this in the context of this massive tradition of these other sects, all relegating the Lotus to some kind of an inferior position. Did he read it and not get it? See, Nichiren's posing a different kind of an argument here, right? He's pulling you in. He's saying, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I never knew. Maybe these people are so popular because maybe they're right. Is that possible? He's drunk. You come in close. Wow, Nichiren's saying this? Wow. Why is he saying this? It's pretty clever. While practicing the Lotus Sutra in this present life, what I'm doing now, and overcoming bad worldly karma, royal persecutions, and accusations by heretics in Hinayana schools, I was able to discern that people have been fooled by such men as Dao Cho, Shan Dao, and Honen. Oh, he's turning the corner. Oh, where do I go now? He drew me in, but who were possessed by devils and gave the appearance of having mastered provisional and true Mahayana sutras. Speaking highly of the Lotus Sutra and slighting the intelligence of the people, they fooled the people by saying that the doctrine of the Lotus was too exquisite, too many notes. To understand it, it was too complicated. That there never had been anyone who obtained Buddhahood through that sutra, or that not even 1 out of 1,000 persons had obtained Buddhahood through it. During an immeasurable number of past lives, people have been fooled this way as many times as the number of the sands in the Ganges River into believing provisional sutras. From provisional sutras, they fell into non-Buddhist scriptures and finally into the evil realms. You notice that with all the time they spent pointing out how the Lotus is too fancy, too elite for anyone to attain Buddhahood, they never turn that lens around on themselves. Not really. They have these guarantees that after you die, when you can't be critical of it anymore, by the way, there's no mind there, but somehow magically you'll know that all of you are in the great heaven of Buddha Amida. That's religion. Where is this place? Is there anyone around who can give me an account of it? Oh, right, because we're living. We can't know it. That's kind of self-defeating, isn't it? Isn't Buddhism about living this life? That was the whole reason Siddhartha started along his path of enlightenment. How do I live this life well? And you're telling me I have to wait to die to get there? Get out of here. What kind of nonsense is that? Nichiren's pointing it out, yeah? I, Nichiren, am the only one who knows this in Japan. It's the only one who's saying it. If I speak out with even one word of this, royal persecutions will never fail to befall my parents, brothers, and teachers. If I do not speak out, however, it would seem that I did not have compassion. I don't care. How can I be a Buddhist and not care about people's enlightenment? What kind of contradiction is that? I can't live with that. I have to speak out. The freaking emperor is naked. Please. Be reasonable. Be rational. That's Buddhism. Wondering whether or not I should speak out in the light of the Lotus, Nirvana, and other sutras, I came to realize that if I did not speak out, I would fall without fail into the hell of incessant suffering in the future, and even if nothing happened to me in this life. If I spoke out, I realized the 3 hindrances and the 4 devils would overtake me. Vacillating between the two, whether I should speak out or should I not. Were I to back down in the face of royal persecutions, I hit upon the 6 difficult and 9 easier actions mentioned in the 11th chapter of the Lotus Sutra. See, he let Shakyamuni's actual teachings guide him in his life. He's our example. He's our mentor for this reason. He specifically shows us how to use the words of Shakyamuni in his ultimate sutra, the Myoho Renge Kyo, how to live this life. Because that's all the Buddhahood was ever about. And here he goes, quoting the 11th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, beholding the stupa of treasures, beholding the treasure tower, beholding the Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. It's right there in the middle of the mandala. That's why it's there. That's our guide stone. It says that even a man as powerless as me, a fisherman's son, can throw Mount Sumero. Even a man with as little superhuman power as me can carry a stack of hay on his back and survive the disastrous conflagration at the end of the world. And even a man as ignorant as me can memorize various sutras as numerous as the sands of the Ganges River. Even more so, it is not easy to uphold even a word or phrase of the Lotus Sutra, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, in the latter age of degeneration. This must be it. I have made a vow that this time I will have an unbending aspiration to Buddhahood and never fall back. Drop the mic. This is all that Nichiren asks of us to do, the same as he did. Make a decision. Aspire for, make your efforts, dedicate your mind to Buddhaness, and let that be your lens with which to experience the world. That is how you shed the stasis, the static, the need for possessions. Your need is fulfilled by being, not having. Sounds subtle, but it's incredibly profound. Next, chapter 7, proving the Buddha's prediction in the Lotus Sutra. So, having drawn everyone's attention in toward the state of affairs in his day, Nichiren at the last moment pulls out a massive punch of truth. He says, there it is. I didn't invent it. I simply came to see it. And now I'm showing it to you. Look. I keep reminding you guys, we don't practice Nichiren Buddhism. It's not Nichiren's Buddhism. In fact, the fact of the matter is, it's your Buddha. Shakyamuni taught us each individually how we become Buddha. To live our lives in Buddhaness. Not Nichiren's. Nichiren is our mentor, our exemplar, our teacher, our guidance counselor, our motivator, our cheerleader, right? He's incredibly valuable to us. But it's all on you. No one can do it for you. No matter how much praise or allegiance, praise and have allegiance for your Buddhahood. Commit. It's hard. It's hard because the tendency all around us and what we've been taught on television and billboards and teachers and programs and schools and just cultural memes and all our lives, we're taught to do as we're told. We're taught to take instruction, but we're not taught. We have been, at times in the human history, taught how to think critically for ourselves. And that's what Buddhism is. It's the original school of critical thinking. That's Buddhism. It's critical thinking. It's not magical. It's not mystical. There are no gods to pray to. We don't worship shit. We have critical thought. And with our minds alone, we can experience the ultimate experience of our personal lives. Not of anyone else's, of ours. And as we do so, the lives around us change. Change for themselves, but certainly change for us. The way we perceive other lives completely changes. We can see their struggles before they can. This is Buddhist compassion. It comes from a self-knowing, a self-actualization of Buddhaness. That's the payoff. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thanks for joining me on the ride. Thanks for liking and subscribing so that we can make this channel, this Sangha, this breadth of resources available more easily to other people. This is our Bodhisattva, one Bodhisattva Avenue, right? Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you for your practice, your diligence, your courage. Yeah. And I don't say courage lightly. It takes courage to practice individually, but it takes tremendous courage to practice the truth of the Lotus Sutra for your Buddha, your Buddhaness, your Gohanzon of awakening in the midst of so much junk. Not only within Buddhism, lots of misinformation and little demigods all over the place, but just daily life. The people in power, the economic systems, the social pressures, right? There's a lot to look around and be angry at, be fearful of, be disgusted with. But you know what? All that does is bring you down into the lower realms. Screw that. Dedicate your attention to your Buddha mind. And all of that will quiet down. It'll be there, but it'll cease to have the power that it has. And the more you and I work together to make this Buddhahood more experienced, more known, the more all that other stuff will just eat itself up. It has to. What choice have we? Extinction? I don't like that one. I'm going to rise against it every time I see it. And if a poser, a pretender, a liar walks around with the cock of the walk, I'm going to tear him down. Because I have to. Because it's proper. Because it must be done. for me to have any dignity, and that's another key word that I've hit on all the time in Buddhism. If you're to have any dignity for your life, you must seek out truth, whatever the cost. Because if the cost is your dignity, then you're not living a life. Ugh, got a little preachy. Stick with your practice. Enjoy it. Learn to laugh at the ridiculousness of life sometimes. Yeah. Certainly all around us. And be kind to yourself. Love yourself. If you say to me, I don't know if I can love myself, fix it. Fix it right now. Why are you wasting any time not fixing it? Namo Myo Renge Kyo. Thank you so much. Again, patrons, you guys, you're keeping me alive here. And so I hope this for this grand purpose is your bodhisattva work, because it affects all of us, right? It's not for me, right? It's for Buddhism. So thank you for your participation and your support. Please use the resources. Use threefoldlotus.com. I just posted something else on threefoldlotus.com on the core materials page. Excuse me. Right, that picture of the single thought moment, the 3,000 realms. I kind of broke it down with its components. Not because I wanted to make a cool chart, but because I want to open your mind to the largesse of what that suggests. You can take any single part in that graph and dissect it until it becomes too large to conceive. And then you add, multiply, put them together. And then you start to get this fuzzy logic of a bigger picture that's occurring in us every single moment. What can you say but, wow, how can I tap into that? You know how. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. With that, I will see you in the next one. This practice is just amazing. Stay healthy, okay? Bye for now.